Start time is 5:45.
Thank you, 5:45.
It was a little radio staticky for me.
Oh, what can you do?
I loved it.
Can't all be winners. Well, welcome back to What the Podcast. I'm Ryan,
I'm John.
and together we are
Ryan and John.
on the couch as always. Producer Cara Philly.
Can't do
Couldn't
it
do
without,
without you. You know, sometimes I actually get ready for this show.
Yeah.
Would you believe it?
In the last couple of weeks, I think we've both been kind of showing up.
Well,
and that's all we can ask, really. It's just to show up.
So I thought about that today, and as I was working, I should have been working, but I was getting ready for the podcast. And,
First of all, love that.
and so sometimes I'll like take to the headlines and
Yeah.
like look for a weird, news headline that sticks out, and it's all just Afghanistan. Whole thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
my question for you is, you know what's going on over there?
Well,
I should say how much do you know about the situation?
so how much I know is that the U.S. has been in Afghanistan for like 20 years, a long time. And recently, and I don't know by who, I don't know if it was President Trump or President Biden, but someone pulled our forces out of there, causing, and for the last 20 years, from what I understand, what I've read and talked, kind of heard on the news, we've been like supplying helping them create a military, like the actual government in Afghanistan.
Right.
So we've been like giving them guns and training them and blah, blah, blah. For the hope that one day we could take our part out of Afghanistan and they can, have a very civil experience as far as a country and kind of have a democracy to some extent. And so I've heard, and I don't know if this is necessarily correlated to what's going on, but I've heard that recently a lot of our forces, not all of them from what I understand, were taken out of Afghanistan, but then out of nowhere, the president of Afghanistan was like flown out, and the Taliban, which is a massive terrorist organization, took over the presidential palace.
As it kind of was before we occupied.
Yes, and so
country.
it kind of reverted back. And so, the conversations in America have been, what's our role in it now? We've invested 20 years of resources and money to try and do the best we could to give Afghanistan structure. And now that we've kind of, started I guess in some ways we started our, like backpedaling out of there, and then chaos ensues, and then America is leaving entirely from Afghanistan.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of interesting. Well, I always think foreign situations are always hard because obviously America, we want to try and be like this beaming light of like, hey, we want you to have, like, we think
We're
not only
spreading this idea of democracy.
We're not even thinking like we are the only ones that deserve what we have here. I think we're kind of, I would love to see us, and we have in the past, go to other countries and help when they need help, but to some degree, a country like Afghanistan, who's clearly has had so much trouble in the last 30 years sustaining any sort of structured government, it's like one of those things like, how much do you reach into the darkness to try and help somebody before it like sucks you in entirely,
The way I read it too is the idea that like the theory behind it is if we were there, 50 years, it could have maybe worked because like the sensibilities that are instilled in this generation that's like, raised by like, the Taliban is like this opposing force trying to take over, what the country is at its core. If the U.S. government had stayed, 50 years.
Yeah.
They could have waited till this generation kind of dies out. They're raising up these new troops. They're, like you said, instilling this idea of like democracy there.
Yeah.
And setting up a government. It would have worked. The problem is we're at this point at the 20-year mark.
Yeah.
Where the cost is so high and the American blood that is shed, and really, same for the people that live in Afghanistan, like the bloodshed is so crazy.
The life loss, yeah.
On the American side too, it's like, okay, at what point are we going, yeah, this is worth it for our troops that we're just kind of, throwing into the mix? What business do we have over there?
Well, yeah, that's kind of the question, right? And I think, again, I like the idea that we wouldn't stand as bystanders and kind of watch the Taliban kind of engulf this country and take over. And, the Taliban just has such an awful history, like just as like so gnarly. And so the reality is I think of it as like if we were in trouble with infighting in our own country, that I would hope that another country would step in and protect the people, the innocent bystanders that are being affected by this awful terrorist
and it's
group.
And it's kind of hedging our bets too, because there are plenty of countries that are doing the same thing, that like, be it communist countries or countries that are just like overrun by violence or whatever, that we are going, can't fight that battle. Can't go over there and be helpful.
My curiosity is why now is the Taliban deciding to take over again? Is it because we withdrew?
Oh yeah.
Oh, 100%.
U.S.
Or
occupation.
was it just coincidence?
No.
Of the time.
I think
very much
the
so.
U.S. made, like I said, I'm almost positive somebody made a decision to, and I can't. It's so confusing because it's kind of all gray at this point.
And shame on me because I brought this up when we started talking about it without me saying why. Is this is one more of those situations where the armchair experts come out, and I just just marvel at the idea that it's a highly complex situation that I know nothing about.
All I know,
essentially nothing about, and maybe our peers and even like news columns and stuff, like these news outlets that are going, like, oh, Joe Biden inherited this lost war on Afghanistan, and like he's this big loser now. It's like, it's so funny to me.
All I know
that I'm
is
like,
that
we're now talking about
I guess when he was
this.
Vice President Biden, that was like one of his things on his to-do list was to get out of Afghanistan.
Yeah, I'm just reading that
what you got for us?
2014, Barack Obama announced that they would start withdrawing from Afghanistan.
I think I remember that.
And so, I mean, I think it's obviously a tiered process. You don't just like get up and leave. So I think maybe in 2014 is when the shift started to happen, where we started to kind of move our troops out. And that's probably when the Taliban got wind of it, I would imagine, and decided to try and like fill the
but
gap.
now that it's actually happening,
and now we are fully removing. Like that's what Biden's whole address the last couple of days have been about. It's like they're pulling out, and he even said, it was pretty controversial. He said that any Americans that were like there on like visiting or whatever, that he wouldn't guarantee that they could get out.
That's so scary.
Which is terrifying.
It's just rough, like, but it's also he's dealing with, he's kind of going, this is the final straw. Like, I'm doing it, like, whatever the consequence of that may be, I'm doing it for getting our troops home and taking us out of this conflict.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I think is commendable from a, like I said, very surface level is my understanding of any of these events.
No, and it's good to have a conversation. I mean, that's like kind of the idea of this podcast. It's like we've been very clear from the beginning.
Yeah.
It's not, we're not experts in anything, and honestly, I don't even know who would be. I mean, there's so many different sides
who is
to
supposed
it.
to
Someone
be the
who
expert
has
on
their
this.
PhD and
Yeah, but it's good to be talking about it because it's the reality, and like, and more as time goes on, we become the generation that is in charge. Like with every passing year, we get like our generation becomes closer and closer to being like president of the United States and like all these generals. You know what I'm saying? Like those are going to be people that are our age. And so it's good to be thinking, like, even just cursory talking about it.
Yeah, and I've been like wrapping my head around this idea of like when the response is, do your research. Like, I'm gonna give you my opinion, whatever, about any topic, and then I don't know, do your own research, like make your own decisions.
Yeah.
and it's like, it's always like, oh, Google it. Like, you have the internet. It's like, where do I even start with that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Like to be like, okay, yeah, I'm going to Google, what is the process been like of us in Afghanistan for the past 20 years? And I'll get 100 different,
Well, and that's what I hate about the news right now is, and maybe it's always been this way, but like, it just feels very sided. Like you go on to CNN, you're getting a very like liberal perspective, which is fine, and that's all. Of course, like we wouldn't be paying newscasters if they just were like. I mean, we should be, but like the reality is, your own kind of belief system seeps into your work. I mean, we know that as anything.
Sure,
and now
and whoever's funding that.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be that way, but that's just the way it is. And then you watch Fox News, and you just obviously know it's very conservative, Republican sided. You know what I'm saying? So it's hard. The news isn't impartial anymore, which sucks.
Yeah.
Like. And the reality is, we live in an era where it could be, like if everyone was just like,
oh my gosh. Speaking of Fox News, you just got a notification.
Oh, go ahead.
Whoa. Wow.
Anything about Afghanistan?
No, about a football player being charged drunk driving.
Oh, well.
That's fun.
I mean, that's just a Tuesday. I'm just kidding.
Oh, well. Yeah. Well, what can you do? I guess my whole point in bringing this up is I want to open this conversation of like, what's something that you just know nothing about?
Oh.
Something that is in the news maybe, or that is in whatever it is. I like, what do you not, I guess you don't know what you don't know, but what is something that people talk about that you still are like, scratch your head on?
I would say, I mean, I just think, like, I hear it a lot, and I know there's a lot to it, but I literally have no understanding of like global warming. Like I know it's happening, but I know there's so much to it.
Yeah.
But something I've never just been able to like. It's so
broad, but it's so.
Yeah, and then I know there's science too behind it, and so like I know, like I said, I believe it's real. I'm not saying that it's like not real, but it's one thing that I just am always like. And and I think I'm from a different generation. Like my parents and even my grandparents, they don't. Nobody thinks about, the environment. Yeah. And I like it's something
you were raised by a different generation, you think, or what do you mean you were?
I feel like I try and do my best for the environment. Like I think reducing and reusing and recycling is so important, and I think if there will be a day where it's so easy to do that. Yeah. Like we're not using plastic stuff very often. I know I'm not the best at it as I drink out of a Starbucks plastic cup. But like I think I more often than not, I think I get on kicks of trying to be better. Like taking my cup to Starbucks and like filling it, and
I still like trip out on, to your point, like what our role even is in that. Like
it's so
how
big.
Can we and
how do we help?
How do we help when companies, right, and governments and these like gigantic corporations, right, are just pumping the world full of gases and dumping their trash in the ocean, and we're supposed to be like the ones on the ground.
Yeah, I always get to that spot of I'll get a kick of like, oh, like bring utensils, like all this stuff, but then I go and I think like, well, it's already made.
Yeah.
So then I get into that mindset.
I'll tell you what.
You go in the grocery store right now, and all the vegetables are packaged. Like, I love Trader Joe's. Love it. Big fan of Trader Joe's. Everything in there is like wrapped in plastic. Yeah. Individual, salad.
Well, and I'll tell you what. One thing I will say that and this is small because I know it's not that big of a deal. Sure. But one thing that I feel like I've eliminated really well is straws, like plastic straws.
Sure.
I always, and I was like you for a long time where I was like, well, it's already there, like they already handed it to me. But like a lot of times I will really try and refuse a plastic straw because I personally don't like necessarily enjoy using a straw. And so it's like one of those things where I know people, I say that because I know people are, you know what I'm saying? Sure, I know some people like that. And I think whatever, like if you're using a reusable one, so you're, even now, so you're doing your part too.
The one thing that sucked about that for all COVID stuff is like, if we handed it to you, it's like, sorry, you can't take it back.
Yeah, I know.
An individual use thing, or
well, like at Starbucks,
that was the world of COVID. Is everything's like an individual wrapped.
Thing,
yeah.
But like Starbucks, it's the straws. Yeah. So when COVID was like a like really, really, when they were like on the surface, it's on the surface, we would hand somebody something and we could not take. They were like, "Oh, I don't need a straw," after they touched it, and it's like,
when we were like wiping down like stuff from the grocery store.
Yep. Spraying it.
It was like a whole 3 or 4 weeks where we were like getting groceries from, Uber Eats or whatever, delivering, or what's the one? Leave. What's the one? Instacart. Bring the Instacart to the door, and then you wipe all the stuff down. You're wiping down your bananas.
Insane.
Don't you just feel like an idiot now?
We were probably the cleanest though.
I think also I remember my first flight, like, kind of mid-COVID era. I was like kind of.
I remember we talked about it on the podcast.
I was kind of freaked out about it.
Same.
Like, I just remember thinking, well, before I got the vaccine too, I remember thinking like, and I wasn't even afraid for myself, but I was more afraid for like the people that are high risk that I know.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I don't want to be the guy who gets it and then like is reckless enough to like transfer it to you, and like a lot of my family, didn't necessarily think it was as severe as it was and had a little more of a relaxed view on it. So I was thankful then that if I did get COVID, that I was around people that necessarily didn't take it serious anyways. So it was like, well, it's kind of their own thing. Like how can you even be traced back to me? But still, I mean, Jordan's grandparents are high risk, and we didn't see them necessarily, but we were bringing them groceries, and I just was like very terrified by the whole thing. It was isn't that crazy?
I guess that's another answer to the question. Is like, we still don't know anything about COVID.
No.
We still don't know about
we know
vaccines.
That the
we still don't know about
the younger you are,
not
the more
getting them. We still don't know about getting them.
The stronger your immune system.
Yeah.
Like kids aren't getting it.
Because like I said, well, now they are apparently. It's like the new
strain.
They can't get the vaccine still. So kids are like getting it way more than adults are.
And school's going back into full effect in a lot of places. So,
But, and like we're saying, you could turn on any channel right now and get a different opinion about.
Oh yeah,
and that's what's so frustrating about the news. That is so frustrating. I know I'm asking for the impossible, but I just wish that one news source would just be like, "Hey, we're not politically one way or the other. Like,
we're just giving you the news.
We're gonna find the information, straight up facts and numbers. But then, what do you do with those facts and numbers? I mean, because there's 100 different things.
Well, that's the other thing. Is like. That's what I'm saying about the irony of like this is the age in which we could be getting it right every time because we have technology that connects everyone. Yep. So like somebody who's doing like either whoever's like doing the COVID numbers for this county can literally just like be honest and be like, this is actually what
Here's
we have.
How many people got it this week?
And hands it off, and then but like the chain reaction, and maybe that's a human instinct. Everyone is just like out for their own political gain, so things get skewed and
Then you have one person who has the different opinion.
It's like, okay, it's Memorial Day weekend, it's 4th of July weekend, and here's the numbers, and the numbers are the same as they were last week. It's like, shouldn't those numbers, if the rate is increasing at the same, like, if the, shouldn't that correlate?
Remember when we'd see that every single day on the news? We'd see like, oh, this is the death toll of this week. This is the numbers this week.
Freak me the frick out.
I haven't seen that on the news in a long time.
Isn't that nice?
I remember the tiers. I remember being like when we got to orange tier or whatever, everyone was freaking out. Like we could have like small gatherings outside, masks, and I was like, oh my
restaurants were open for outdoors.
Yeah.
And you're still wearing masks. I mean,
a lot of restaurants are still
this is all things that happened just about 6 months ago, but it's the nature of the 2020s.
Feels like it's been like 5 years.
Right? I feel like we've been doing it forever.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I think just the difference between, like lip sync, which we'll talk about later, last year versus this year, we were like, last year was like it was a huge risk to do what we did, and it was like now, and then like thinking back to this year, there was like, oh yeah, there was no masks, and like people didn't really feel uncomfortable, and it was just like, it was so nice. Because now
most of us are protected.
Yeah. So nice.
I felt like such a relief this year. Like going, I've got my vaccine.
Yes, me too.
I'm not, I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
And but like, and I don't think I realized the effects of, COVID had on it last year because we were just kind of in damage control, like
seeing whether or not we could even do it.
Yeah, and that was like crazy, and it ended up being at the perfect time because it was like right on the downslope but right before a spike, which was nice because we were able to kind of check. Feel like we were checking it off the list last year, which maybe that's bad. We still had a great time, of course, but like. It's good to be back to normal where like we can do it and there's no fear, know? And that applies to basically everything else in life,
I spend so much time like reading about things and going just like I don't know what any of you people are
Questioning
talking
why.
about.
I'm telling you, it's so frustrating, and that's what's so scary about social media. I mean, we've talked about this like a long time ago when Trump got his social medias like shut down essentially, and you're like. It seems something like arbitrary, like it seemed like a win in some sense, right? Because he was kind of he incited all that violence at the Capitol, you know.
Yeah.
So like it felt like a win. But then when I started looking at it as like a, you know, as a very like subjective, like just looking at it or like facts, objective,
Sure.
you know what I'm saying? Where
Yeah.
like they just shut somebody down, and I thought like, oh wow, people build platforms and like have the power to do that, like incite violence. But then also there are companies that are, you know, politically motivated that can then in a weird way
run
silence
ads,
can silence you, you know.
course.
And
Yeah.
it was terrifying. So that's what's so annoying about the news. It's like I wish there was
Is that
more.
so bad, you think? I think my whole point is like the armchair expert. I think the internet has a lot of good and a lot of great information sharing, but now we're in this world where like your neighbor's cousin is an expert and is popped up on your Facebook
True.
and is like, here's why, you know, we should be pulling out of Afghanistan and we should have done it 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Joe Biden, where
Only
were
on
you,
Facebook.
Joe Biden? And then scroll a little further and somebody's like, what are we doing? Like we're in a losing battle. We need to get back over there and, you know, occupy Afghanistan. We got to do it for Jerusalem. Like, it's like, whoa, okay.
Yeah.
And it's stuff that I don't work at the White House. I'm not in like the Department of Justice.
I'm sure there
or-
are people that work at the White House that don't
That
know
are
what's
shaking
going
their
on.
heads, right?
Like, what's going? No, you're right. I mean, in the sense that
kinda interesting.
it's good to like have a conversation about it because
Yep.
it's reality. Whether or not what we do, whether we are pulling our forces out of Afghanistan, but whether or not we decided to stay, it's good to have a conversation about it because it's good to know what's going on in your world, which is easy to do. It's easy to zone out and kind of do your own thing.
Of course,
stay on
but you
TikTok.
gotta stay engaged, right?
What do
Crazy.
you not know?
Oh yeah.
Well, I kind of said the COVID thing. What's
Oh, yeah.
What's yours
I was gonna say economics.
oh yeah.
regarding personal or
Everything.
like the world?
I never took economics in high school because it was no, I didn't because I took AP history, and if you didn't take AP history, it was half of the semester was history, half of it was economics.
I took
Sure.
So I never got that.
GovEcon.
And then when I was at
Yeah.
That's true.
SDSU, I took an economics class and I got a D. I didn't retain anything of it.
I took it in high school.
So-
I didn't do well.
Like I don't understand like APR, like that whole
Annual
world.
percentage rate?
Yeah, I know what it means.
Cara?
I don't understand
Aren't you glad I'm here?
interest stuff. I
I'm glad
don't.
you're here.
I got you. honey.
I don't.
Yeah, it's and
Don't you worry about that.
The more you get into economics,
Kind
I'm
of sort
sure.
of a economic.
I feel like it is a black hole of numbers.
No,
Well,
it
I
totally
think the
is.
more you know about economics, you'd probably be a little disenchanted with the world. You know, like economics
Sure.
is so interesting in the sense that
it's
people
something.
hold
Well,
on
and
money.
I trip out on like student debt. You know, is like such a travesty in this country. Like
Oh my gosh, the student debt number is like what is it? It's like a good. Not
2 gajillion or
is
something.
it
Yeah,
gajillion?
I don't know if that's even a real.
They're making up numbers
It's
for you.
it's past whatever is one past a billion. It's like
Trillion?
a billions.
Trillion.
Oh, trillion, huh? Trillion and then something else, and that's what it's at.
Quintillion or
I don't know.
septillion. Yeah, it's something like
Too
that.
much.
Oh, another thing that I wish I
Quadrillion.
knew more about
Yeah.
was like what you guys do, like microphones and tech and
Oh.
'cause
Really?
nothing. I don't understand like all the
Well-
chords.
Well, that's. I mean,
And, like,
that's-
everything like
that's
that.
reasonable. I think.
Yeah. I mean,
Hey,
I
let's we'll do a
Yeah,
little
you want-
course
you want-
after
you want
this.
a
Crash
course?
course?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
gosh.
of course. Here's ready for it.
Sure.
Analog to digital to analog converter. Ready? Analog is like I think of it as like tangible
I think
sound,
of-
right?
Oh, you think of sound? I'm thinking of like a clock.
I'm speaking into this microphone, and the technology in this microphone is going through this cable and going into the computer, right?
Making it
And it's
digital.
converting that to digital.
Yep.
Right? So
Okay.
we see it in the computer. Now the computer's got speakers, so it can convert it back to analog so you can hear it. Right? Now,
So that's what your phone does when you're listening to a podcast.
Yeah, and if I text you the link to the podcast, you're listening to, it's going to convert that file into analog. So you
over
can
the internet, which is a whole
other thing.
So it's kind of like reading it and hearing it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
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 Right. Kind of.
Yeah.
When you said analog and digital, I immediately thought of a clock. Like the hands of a clock,
kind of the same thing,
is analog, and then
think about
the
it,
numbers are digital.
An analog clock is showing you what time it is.
Yeah.
Right. Not the number, but the arms move in such a way that it's like actually keeping the time. Whereas a digital clock,
you just see
that's all. There's a little tiny computer in that digital clock, and it's showing you the number.
Little tiny computer processing unit.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Those are things that I don't know.
Well,
hey, listen, you're in the best place to learn.
Hey, welcome.
You know what I
You're
do know
surrounded by
a lot
technology.
about?
What's up?
What's that?
Macrame.
Hey.
Right over there.
I do know a lot about
Shout out to Sunkissed Macrame. That I will never understand. You're like, it's so easy. Like,
It really is.
Maybe I will understand it someday.
It is.
Yeah, maybe we'll
Twist and ropes.
I'd love to learn.
I'll teach a class.
We'll do a Skillshare situation.
Yeah.
You teach us a little macrame.
I tried to do.
I'll teach you how to plug in a microphone.
Yeah.
A long time ago, my brothers and I learned how to knit a scarf.
Heck no.
And we
can't do it.
They made made 20 to 30 scarves for all the women at Christmas one year. And I was like trying to do it, and I'd get like this far on the scarf, and then I'd mess something up.
Yeah.
And I just never clicked for me. And they were like, my brothers, it was like almost like a competition. They were just like going through it so fast.
They made a scarf for all the women.
Yeah, and the best part
Every
was
single one.
In my family. And back then it was a lot.
In your family.
Back then it was a lot because we had a lot of
women.
Yeah, well, aunts and great aunts
now
well,
not so many.
the family tree thins, unfortunately.
Yes. I will never understand knitting and crocheting.
Not as funny as I
died.
Was trying to make it out to be.
Macrame is way easier than knitting and crocheting. You don't need needles. You just use your hands.
And then they found out that one of my Aunt Sue's friends was just going to come to like Christmas Eve last minute, and so the night before
they were like scarf.
They were like firing through them.
My grandma has been crocheting. I think she only crochets. She doesn't knit. I think, or it's flipped, her whole life.
Okay.
And she will make something like a giant blanket in like a night.
It's insane to me. That's one of my things too. But anyway, so let's get to the podcast.
You got any skills like that?
No.
Just any random
rando skills.
What were like some? I mean, you were kind of the hobby guy growing up.
I was the hobby guy,
and so we've talked about that maybe in the past. What's like, what was some of your favorite hobbies?
Or something that came easy to you?
Yeah, sure.
Something that came easy to me. I think, I really enjoyed making like cakes. I was doing baking for a while.
I still think that's so cool.
And I remember watching, the show Cake Boss was big.
Yes.
And I remember watching that and being like, oh, that'd be so cool to do that. And then like doing it, I took to it pretty fast, and I really enjoyed the creativity of like problem solving what you want it to look like. And you like making things that look realistic was always fun because like, so one time I made like this shark head, and I like shaped it out of Rice Krispie treats and covered it in like gray fondant, and
so cool.
And I like made the teeth, and it was so much fun. Yeah. And so I enjoyed the creativity, and I think I was pretty naturally good at that, which was weird because not something that you should necessarily be good at. Usually it takes practice.
I think
Working
baking,
with your hands.
When you're baking, you have to be naturally good because you can follow a recipe like me and screw it up.
Yeah, I mean that was some of the stuff that I really enjoyed. I said I never like I said I think I took to it pretty easily, which was weird because I remember seeing it on TV thinking like, this got to be harder than it is, and it went over.
Yeah. I got to think about like crafty stuff I did growing up.
I don't have the.
I don't know. What do you think?
For you?
No, for you. Well, I meant for you. What do you think?
For me, I think my handwriting.
Oh, okay.
I never had bad handwriting, and like I was one of those people in middle school where like people would try and copy my handwriting, but then I was also that way with a couple of my friends in my class who had really good handwriting. We'd like try and copy each other's because it was so good.
I had terrible handwriting.
So that's something that
chicken scratch.
I if I want to have chicken scratch, I can, but like I still write in cursive every day. I still Like handwriting's just been like a thing.
Did you guys take penmanship in school?
No.
It was called a
I took
handwriting.
penmanship.
Really?
Yeah. It was like that we had these books that we would do, like the end of
Yeah.
English period or
You
whatever.
had to trace.
Not
Trace.
period. It was like elementary school, middle school.
Yeah.
Maybe to the extent. And it was like these books. Yeah. And you were like, you had to write out your name in cursive 100 times or
Yep.
something. Like
We had to do that,
garbage.
which that's probably why I still write in
Garbage.
cursive today.
That's probably why I
But-
don't. But
See, I love that kind of stuff.
yeah.
Okay, I have a news story I wanted to wanted to
Oh.
show you.
Something just the little
Well,
Fox
I-
News pop up on the phone there, John?
No, not Fox News. That's my mother's iPad for the record. That's not mine.
Well, I think it's
Wow.
like
Exposed.
it was the news
Exposed.
app.
Well,
Like
are
the
you
top
surprised?
stories.
Go ahead there,
So
John.
I came across this on Facebook,
Okay.
and I'll share it. You don't have to share it necessarily, Cara, but a Utah man jumps. So a family was having a birthday party in Utah.
Okay.
And they were having a crocodile experience where like
Oh,
they
I
come
saw
out
this.
and they're like, "Oh, this is a crocodile." They talk about it. They show the kids, right? Well,
Like a Tiger King kind of situation.
yeah, but for like a crocodile
What's that guy's
thing.
name?
Like
Joe-
you know when
like
like,
a Joe Exotic?
a zoo person would like be in the library with like
Yeah.
a snake,
For sure.
like showing off the snake.
So basically, what happened was this young girl who was doing it. This is an ad. Don't.
By the way,
don't look at this
love
ad.
the headline. Love the
And
headline.
jumps into the tank to save reptile handler attacked by
Darth Gator.
Darth Gator. Yeah. So, but I wanted to show you this video. It was pretty crazy. I thought it was insane, but basically, so she somehow like mishandles the crocodile, and the crocodile gets a hold of her hand. And you know how crocodiles work? They start to death roll. They're trying to rip your limb off. That's how they do it to animals. They
Is
grab
that what
on
they do?
and they roll. They do call
yeah,
it death
they do the roll.
well,
I didn't know that.
By the way, there's all these kids here, and it's like a glass aquarium. So
Oh,
she's like
no.
trying to scare
Oh,
him
no.
to get him to go back, and
Nope.
she puts her hand in the wrong place.
no,
catches
no,
her
no,
hand,
no, 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 no,
and then
no,
starts to
no.
roll.
Oh,
No.
you're done.
Starts to roll.
You
and then
are done.
Luckily, she kind of rolls with the
Yeah.
crocodile.
You have
so
to.
Like,
Oh,
like
no.
flips her-
Yeah.
Oh, no.
But
You have
anyways,
to, yeah.
this guy right here is like the dad to one of these kids. Does not work here, by the way.
Just cruised on in.
He was just there, and first thing he yells is like, "We need help over here!" Obviously, nobody comes, and then he literally hops into this tank.
And you hit the
And-
crocodile.
No, and he
Dum, dum.
and he holds it down because he apparently understands to some degree that it's going to roll again.
Yeah.
So he pins this. This is a random man, by the way. And this handler is basically explaining to them like what to do from here because the guy's like,
Yeah.
"I'm on the crocodile. What do we go from here?"
What do I do?
Props to the handler because she's like.
She knows. She has to know what
she
to
like
do.
She like kind of just like works through it, and you know her hands like killing her, but adrenaline she probably doesn't feel it yet. But he pins it on the ground. They get her free. This other bystander over here is like pulls her out of it. You'll see in a second. Pulls her straight out of the tank. This guy throws his sunglasses.
I was wondering what he was doing, like splashing the water.
He threw something out because I mean I am just so amazed by this because I'm like these.
Got her hand on her head, like, okay.
Okay, we're deeper. And the whole conversation, if you could hear the audio, she's just like, okay. And the guy's like, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
And she's like, well, we're going to prise his jaws open here.
Darth
and
Gator.
then Darth Gator's going to get upset. And then literally, like, I'll
Look
skip
at her.
to the end.
Her other hand's just like sitting
So
on her
look,
head.
So she keeps her hand.
Yeah, she's
Just tell me that at
she's
least.
going into surgery. She's not losing it
Oh,
for sure.
okay.
See, that guy pulls her out. And now this guy's
Now
in
this dude's on the crocodile.
full stranger, like just like a bystander's on a crocodile. He's like, okay, like what do we do?
Oh,
and she's like,
shoot.
watch your hand. Obviously,
That thing's like you're on top of a
Yes.
dinosaur right
yeah.
now. That thing will kill you.
look at this thing. And then he just this girl's like, look at, she's like kind of talking him through it. But then he hops off and he runs out.
And
Watch this. Right? He backs off.
what the crocodile's probably over it, right?
Yeah, the crocodile's
holding-
like,
what is he
the
holding
crocodiles
the-
get tired out or
Because
something.
there's no way that
Holding the
jaw,
jaws down.
No way. That jaw is like
So the
Oh,
thing
the
is,
tail.
pressure.
the thing about the
pressurized,
crocodile is they have a lot of pressure closing. They have very minimal pressure opening. So
Nice, he just ran out.
So a human
Wow.
can hold the mouth
Really?
shut. You just don't want to get in the way when it comes down.
Yeah.
But then I found out that
Wow.
guy's wife is an emergency nurse, so she starts triaging this girl's
Wow.
hand until the
Wow.
emergency people. And I thought. So then the question is, what I wanted to ask
The
you guys
question is, what would you do?
would you jump in there?
Hell no.
No.
Okay, what if he was one of the only
here's-
like other adults there at
Oh,
this
I'm sure he
party?
was. I'm sure he was.
My answer is no, because I know I wouldn't. Because in those situations, I think
Yeah.
I would
It's
tense
kind of like
up.
fight or flight, right? Like, what would you do?
I don't know.
It could be different because he's a parent and it's like the girl's young. Like
That could
Oh, I
be.
think that for sure
I
factors
think,
in. Yes.
and
I
then you
so.
think I'm thinking in his mind if he's like, okay, I have seen like Discovery Channel when these people have like go on top of these crocodiles.
But they're saying that if he hadn't have did what he did,
She'd lose her arm.
She would have lost her arm.
Oh, 100%.
Easy.
Maybe, and who
It would've
knows?
got
Maybe
ripped off.
her life, really.
Yeah.
You know,
bleed out.
That's a
And
lot.
That's a major artery right there.
But oh man, and then everyone's like on social media was like, they had an interview with her, and she said that it was just one of those things. Like
You're with a wild animal.
There wasn't like a break of protocol. Like it just kind of like got away. She wasn't paying attention, and the crocodile happened to grab a portion of her hand. And by the time she said, as soon as she felt her hand, she knew it was going to be a big deal. I mean, because at that point it was like
Once
go
I
time.
saw my hand inside the crocodile, I thought this might be a problem.
Well, because in
Yeah.
the beginning, it's almost like when she first bites her hand, it's almost like maybe it would let go. I know it didn't go that way, but I'm saying like it didn't seem like it was going to be a huge deal. But then when she gets pulled in, you're like, oh no, this is
That's
going
so
down.
rough.
I've seen a couple videos like that where on TikTok in some I don't know where the zoos are,
TikTok.
but they're feeding these crocodiles.
Thank you.
Or alligators, I don't remember which one it was. But they're feeding them like these giant pieces of meat and they're like the glass is here and they're like in water and they're like halfway out trying to eat it and it's like stay back. And I've seen one where alligator
Crocodiles are
came
fast,
out,
by the way.
like came fully out of the tank and the girl was
So
like, dang
scary.
it, now I have to try and get it back in the tank.
Yeah.
Like it didn't attack her or anything, but they're smart.
So you kind of think you would jump on top of that crocodile.
Well, here's the thing. I don't know. I've never been in a situation.
Have you ever been in a fight before?
No.
Like
No.
a random-
No, but here's what I think. Whenever I've been in a situation where I thought it was going to go south,
Yeah.
I was immediately thinking, "What's my first move? Like, am I like how
Sure.
do I get to,
Yes.
take this guy down if I need to?"
We've talked about this before. I think I'd do this on like airplanes or like sketchy
Yeah.
situations too, where I'm like, if something's gonna go down right now, like what would my response be?
Now that's different because I think I rely a lot on professionals. So
Sure.
like I don't know,
Yeah.
like in my head I don't know if I would have immediately jumped in the tank because in my head I was like, she's got to know what she's doing. She's the professional, you know.
I think
but
yeah.
obviously that's a situation where she's in trouble.
Because
don't know.
think that's where I'm thinking of like, how did he know to jump on the back? And I'm like, maybe it's because of all the things that we've seen when people
or
are
she
catching
might have been
alligators.
coaching them. I mean, she could have maybe said something
It's
like,
it's gotta be something in you that is just like a reaction.
I haven't had
Because you're
the
right.
chance.
It's kind of the fatherly thing,
Yeah,
right?
oh,
It's
yeah.
like, oh, I'm gonna
Yeah.
jump
For
on,
sure.
But
Well, and he saw the thing roll. I think it's not hard to assume that it's going to do it again. Like we got to make sure this thing doesn't twist. You
Yeah.
know.
And
I
rip
think
her hand
if
off.
I was at that party tomorrow, I don't know if I would, but maybe
When
I
you're
don't
a father,
know.
maybe
Yeah, maybe
something will click
after the baby comes. Yeah,
Yep.
I don't know. Maybe
I-
not.
I've never been in a situation where I can test my fight or flight instincts, but
Like
I
that,
really
yeah.
think I am fight. I don't think I'm the dissociant type. Now, my brother Bobby, Bobby would be outside the building by the time
Sure.
that guy got in the tank.
I kind of relate to that. I think I would too. Just like, oh, this is conflict. Like, I'm just gonna go away. Like,
Well, and also
goodbye.
the other thing I
Yeah.
think of too is like it depends. Like that guy, the second guy was kind of like at the edge of the tank. So I think at some point, depending on the situation, you have to play a role, and maybe you're not the guy that goes in and lays on
Yeah.
the crocodile, but you're the guy that like gets the kids out of there, or
And maybe it's
is standing by.
my
you know,
connect. Like if it was Cara, if Croc
Cara.
grabbed Cara's arm,
Cara.
if Cara got by the gator, I think I probably would, but I don't know. Like
some random person.
like Joe Exotic is in there, got his arm
Oh,
bit.
poor
I'd be
guy.
like, okay, yeah,
Poor guy.
I'll call an ambulance and I will stand by, but I'm gonna now jump in there and get in the weeds with this crocodile. Maybe
Yeah.
like.
I think it's really situational. I think depending on where I was in the situation, like if I was the guy, again, like the third guy over, I probably would have just been like, okay, whatever you need, like tell me what we need to do, you know?
Once like someone
Some
already
people
stepped
are
in.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
if I was the guy right next to the opening, I mean, like, I don't know.
I get
Some
that.
people are built that way so much so that they do it for a living. They're like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go, and anyone that is in any kind of situation, they call, and then I come, and okay,
what
what's
a rush, though. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know
what
if I
does that
could
guy do
sleep
after
at
that?
night.
Like,
just go home and like
You go, your kid is probably
Decompress.
there, and your kid's probably like, my dad, and then you feel good about yourself.
Kids were pretty traumatized. I just
Yeah,
read some of the
easy.
comments too, and
Dad jumped in the
were kinda
crock pit.
rough, but I mean, I think that guy's a hero.
Yeah.
You know?
of course.
I saw
Super cool.
something really cool on the news today.
Go
What'd
ahead.
you see?
I saw that in the El Cajon School District,
Yes.
Okay.
they have 6 buses now
Okay.
that are all electric.
Whoa.
Isn't that cool?
That's great.
So it was funny because they interviewed this one girl who was like, I've been an old school bus driver, like the diesel, like dirty, fixing it up. So in the beginning, I didn't really want it to change to electric. And then
Yeah.
she was like, but now I'm used to it. It's great.
Well, and she's not the one working on those, I bet.
Yeah.
There's got to have
But
a
it was
special
it was
tech or
cool
something.
because they were saying that since school buses literally sit 90% of the time,
Sure.
that the electricity that doesn't get used, it's a backup battery source. So if any power outage at a school happens, they can take that battery and use it for
Like drive
extra
it there
power.
and
Yeah.
plug it in the
Yeah.
plug it in school.
So I thought that was a cool
Multi-purpose.
thing on the
That's
news.
really cool.
Yeah.
I love that.
That was cool.
I saw something not so cool in the news.
Oh.
Ooh.
So have you heard about Bob Dylan? So I guess somebody has come forward and is now suing Bob Dylan because in the 60s he was grooming this 15-year-old girl.
Ooh.
So now, okay, so here's the weird thing.
Go
Is
ahead.
not the weird thing, but like this is not a uncommon thing then, right? Rock stars were kind of like,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, famously Jimmy Page.
Band-Aids.
Yeah, Band-Aids were really young, 14, 15, 16,
Yeah.
17. His pretty famously Jimmy Page had this like 15-year-old girlfriend that hung out with the band and
Crazy.
yeah, and that's where they kind of based this story from Almost Famous around
Mm-hmm.
is like, oh, this girl that was hanging around the band ended up being way younger than she was saying she was.
Yeah.
Whatever. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
But so now they're trying to take him, this woman that's 70 years old, is trying to take Bob Dylan to court for something that happened in the 60s.
Wow.
Wow.
So I
What
guess,
is the
and I guess
statute of limitations.
Yeah.
on
Now,
that?
That's
see,
what I was thinking.
That's the crazy thing is they extended that in I don't know if it was the Supreme Court or if it was the courts
So-
of California because of Bill Cosby.
They
They were trying to,
I was almost
they
said
were trying to get Bill
Cosby. I-
Cosby because the statute of limitations was
Yeah.
up and there was
Isn't
all
it
this.
dependent on what actually happened though? Like if you were sexually assaulted, it's like forever.
Different classifications, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
different
Yeah.
classifications.
Yeah.
But there was all this tangible evidence for Bill Cosby.
Yeah.
There's not so much tangible evidence now. I don't know how true that is, but
Yikes.
it comes down
Wow.
to like a hearsay thing.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
And they're gonna drag everybody he knows to the mud on that.
That's
I mean,
know,
hey, listen,
and-
if it's for this,
no,
if it's
and
for justice,
and Bob Dylan is going. Yeah, that probably, even if he goes, no, that didn't happen, and a judge goes, yeah, do you have anybody that can
attest to it?
corroborate your story? He goes, yeah, they died 20 years ago.
That's-
all my friends that
Yeah.
yeah, they're all
were
dead.
there, they were all hippies and they all died.
Yeah.
It's like kind
That's
of
a
a rough
tough
thing.
one.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's always important to believe people that are making accusations like that.
Of course.
It's like it's always the victim's timeline, right? Everyone criticizes victims for being like, well, why did you come out 40 years ago,
Of course.
or whatever? And it's like, well, I was also maybe still processing it. I think if there is some legitimacy to it, I think it's important that it goes through. I mean,
Yeah.
the reality is that the justice system will have to play its part in all this, and unfortunately, without a lot of evidence, I mean, that's what we kind of love about the justice system. If there's only one thing to love about the justice system, is that you're innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about foreign stuff in this
Sure.
specific podcast, and in a lot of countries, an accusation can be a death sentence. You
Yes.
know?
Yeah.
So I think it's important that it does play out in an even, in a manner in which everyone gets to say their piece. And
Right.
we have to trust
Yeah.
that the system's going to work in this way. However, it being 40 years, it's been a long time.
Well, and that's the crazy part too, is when you're dealing with something like trauma and time, it's like, somebody can change their story, not even intentionally, is like even a first-hand account of something is like rarely ever.
This says it was a 12-year-old girl.
oh,
She was 12.
Whoa.
okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
I thought it
more
said she was
serious.
14. Well, that's
She's 68 now.
okay. So
68. Wow.
she's
Wow.
68 years old, happened in the 60s, and she's 12. I mean, even that now, huge disclaimer. I'm not saying like, oh, she's making this up.
Absolutely.
But you're 12 years old and you go through something traumatic like that, or you're hanging out with the band at whatever age, and
Agree.
and you're hanging out with Bob Dylan and you're 12, and then 60, 70 years go by, or I guess for her 50 years go by.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I think
okay,
also,
and you're recalling a firsthand account. Maybe she is, and maybe she was so traumatized by it, and she can go, "Yeah, I was here on this day, and this happened to me."
Yeah, I think elements to it's important to get the whole picture, because
Yeah.
I think there is, and I said, don't know really much about it, but I'm
Yeah.
saying there, like you've said, back in the day in this kind of culture, there was a lot of times there were, females that were saying they were 18.
Stuff happening behind
Yeah.
closed
Yes.
doors,
just to
and
be in the room where it happened, and again, that's not to
rough.
excuse sexual assault in any way, but I'm just saying, like,
12's not so.
oh yeah, 12 to 18.
That's
is
not so
a tough sell.
excusable. Yeah.
So I mean, I again said I hope that it plays out in the way that the justice system intends, which
Yes.
is
Yeah.
everyone gets to hear all of the evidence presented, and that a jury and a judge decide appropriately. I mean, that's what we have to trust.
It's pretty rough, because when it comes to like accounts like that, and it's
Yeah.
like, okay, well, this person said this and this person said this.
I know, and
It's like,
I
don't know.
mean, sometimes
I think
I
50
seems like
years
a
ago.
like a
And it's
a weird thing to
hard-
push through the justice system.
It's kind of difficult, and again, this is not to downplay the
No.
victim's story at all in any way, but it's hard when it's been so long.
Totally.
Because one has to kind of, call into question the motivation of it all.
Yeah.
And you have to
it's-
recall your memory.
Yeah, it's been, and as we all know, I mean, I'm doing that now, and I'm 25. Like, I feel like stories that happened 5 years ago, I'm like, in my head, I'm blowing them up. I'm like, they were so epic, and I'm like, if I were to go back, it probably wasn't that cool. Not that this is a situation. This is traumatic,
Yeah.
obviously,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
sometimes
Totally.
things from our childhood, and she was
just
truly in
pump 'em up a
childhood.
little more.
You just they have like a different essence to it, and
Yeah.
so I hope again
Yeah, I
that
mean,
everything
it-
plays out.
It won't go to court.
You don't think money
it'll
settlement?
settle out.
Settle.
Because it just based on the fact that, like, I don't know if they can build a case, like,
It
unless
might be
there's
in
like
her
a
best
smoking gun,
interest.
like a journal entry from Bob Dylan in the 60s was like, I was hanging out with this 12-year-old girl, it was awesome, totally knew it was legal, like,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
nothing like that. He was probably his thing's gonna be, I was high the whole time since 1960 until now. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like
yeah.
kind of a hard thing to book
That's
him for.
pretty sucky.
Yeah.
It's a real tough one. I mean, and in the sense too, like if you look at Bill Cosby, lots of accusations,
Oh, yeah.
lots of evidence, and I think that was a justified situation because
Sure, of course.
there was an overwhelming sense that this
Yeah.
was happening, and even people that knew it was happening and didn't say anything back in the day.
The Harvey
they're-
Weinstein case, too.
Yeah,
Same kind
yeah.
of thing. Like,
And so again, I have to believe that the system will work as
Yes.
it's intended,
Yeah.
but.
that's what you got to do.
It's a sucky situation either way, and the fact that it took this woman to feel comfortable enough to like come out 50 years later is,
Oof.
Rough.
it's got to be tough for her.
Totally.
So
And
Yeah.
somebody like Bob Dylan, too, is like, a legend, right? Like, untouchable. But at the same time, it's not like that's really out of the question either. Like I said, like, that was just part of that weird rock star culture at the time that, stuff that was going on that shouldn't have been going on. And we just, like, not we weren't there, but
we were there.
it just kind of went to the
We were
wayside.
there,
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Glad I wasn't there.
I hope.
Tell you what.
I hope everything works out, and again, it's a sucky situation either way.
Yeah.
Because whether or not it was a miscommunication or the girl was feeling uncomfortable and wasn't able to share that with
Sure.
whoever she was involved with or whoever, right? Like somebody was hurt at some degree, and that's
To the
always-
very
that's
least,
always
you should be compensated
Oh,
for
Yeah.
trauma.
And Bob Dylan's got enough money. Come on.
Hey, take that guy to court.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
I think you're right. I think it'll settle out of court. I think
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
one of those things where there's not a case, but I'm sure Bob Dylan, like I said, whether or not he remembers it, I'm sure he feels bad that even if he wasn't intending to be malicious,
Yeah.
it came across malicious. I'm sure he feels awful about it. You know,
And there's you can't really fudge 12 years old. That's a little rough.
that is a rough one.
But I
we
had
finally
I
do
had
our
a
pod
pod
deck?
deck.
Are we gonna save
yeah,
it?
we got time
Oh.
for this pod deck.
Sure.
What time are we at?
Almost 50 minutes.
Oh my god!
we have time
yeah,
for a quick
baby.
pod deck.
We got a quick pod deck here. Maybe not so quick, but we'll see. Head on down to poddecks.com. Use the code WTP, and you get 10% off of your order.
WTP.
WTP. Break your business. Discuss. This is from the episode deck, but obviously we're ending the episode
Wow.
here. Discuss how you can put yourself out of business. Be that technology, be that a better way of doing your thing. Put yourself out of business.
Got it.
Yep.
Procrastinating.
No, what's going to come
not
around?
doing it.
Kill you.
What's
Oh.
going to come around that's going to
But
put
you meant-
you out
you
of
know,
business?
it's kind of
Put
applies.
yourself
I
out
would
of
put
business.
myself out of business by
Kind of,
procrastinating.
honestly, kind of works.
What's going to come around that's going to like put you
So
out
what's
of
your-
business?
like, your main gig
like
right now?
The Oncelers coming into town and cutting down all the trees. Like,
Okay, so like if I take macrame,
sure.
things that are already getting it out of business is like you go on Amazon and you find one that's like $10 that's giant.
Sure.
And it's been like it sucks because it's like, oh, it's machine made, but you can't machine make macrame. So it's
Sure
some
you can.
factory working people
Industrial
doing
Revolution,
knots. So
I'm not so sure. I think they could crank out thousands.
You think
Dude,
machines can do it?
gosh.
do you ever see those How It's Made shows?
Yeah. Super
I was
interesting.
such a big fan of those shows. I'd sit around and watch. I was a big Discovery Channel fan, so like the MythBusters and right and
Yeah.
and
love
Mike
MythBusters.
Dirty Jobs. Did you ever watch
Oh,
Dirty
yeah,
Jobs?
Dirty
Big fan.
Jobs.
And How It's Made would come on, and it'd be like, yeah, how we're making bubblegum today, and it's like this. It's a specialized piece of machinery that like chops, like double bubble, right?
Yeah.
Chops them just the right size so that it's coming out at 100 pieces a minute or something, and it's just like this machine that
I
runs it.
always loved the mesh fence machine where it like twisted the wires perfectly
Yes,
to like make
the big chain link, right, or
chain link
whatever it
fence.
is. Yeah.
yeah.
So
I always thought that was
cool.
because it was like this perfect. It was so satisfying to watch. Where it was like they had to cross them a certain way, and then like as it moved on across, and it just like linked them perfectly.
Yes.
Fence, whatever. What's it called? And
Yep.
so,
Right.
like that stereotypical like baseball field fencing where it has
Yeah.
the diamonds,
Chain link, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
chain.
link. So
Oh
awesome.
yeah,
I
I love
just-
that video.
awesome.
It's so cool.
Maybe it's on my mind because I just watched a video, the Heinz factories where they're making bottles of ketchup.
Ketchup.
They make in a single day. Guess how many bottles of ketchup they can make? Was it a day or a year? Because now
Oh gosh, I would
thinking
say
about it.
in a day,
In
like
a day, I would say like
500,000 or something
yeah,
like that.
I was gonna say that. I was gonna say maybe 300,000 because I don't know, $500,000 is kind of a lot, right? I mean, but
Yeah.
hey, you know what?
Okay. Do you want to know how many bottles of ketchup Heinz makes every single day?
I'm gonna say 500,000.
She's saying half a
500,000?
mil.
Yeah.
I'm saying 300,000.
They make roughly 1.8 million bottles of ketchup a day.
Gosh.
You know how much
Wow.
ketchup this
Oh my
country's eating,
gosh.
man?
Well, diner food.
Well, we love it, don't
We
we?
do.
They
We
make
love ketchup.
almost 2 million bottles of ketchup a day.
Wow.
Yeah, but you think about ketchup being a universal.
Everybody's putting it on everything.
Universal,
Sure.
like there isn't a place in the U.S.
Where they don't have ketchup?
or even in the. I would say even in the world. You know what I'm saying? Or they don't have ketchup.
I think for sure America. I don't know if ketchup's is ketchup so big around the rest of the world?
In Mexico, it's called catsup.
They call it
you.
that
Not-
here too, I think.
Not lying. Catsup.
Yeah,
Like
sure.
the bottle says catsup.
Yeah, I
They
think,
call it that here
I
too.
think they do. Yeah, you can
about
find
that.
catsup here.
It's just
I know what
ketchup,
you're talking
but
about.
in
Yeah,
Mexico,
I mean,
it's catsup.
I believe it. It is a staggering number, though.
I fully threw us off though. What put yourself out of business?
My main thing, I say Amazon.
Amazon.
Right? I mean, Amazon can put anybody
As a
out of
macrame
business.
salesperson.
So look,
So
I
as
just
a,
found on
oh, yeah.
Amazon for
Okay.
$12 2 macrames that are like my bigger size, like 10-inch rods.
Yep.
For 2 of them for $11.
Yikes.
Tell you what, ain't nobody sitting around in a factory somewhere making
Yes,
those
they
things.
are.
Nope,
Yes,
that's a
they
machine.
are.
Okay,
for
well,
sure
we'll
cranking
have
them
to
out.
find the
for
answer for
$11. Well,
I-
we will have to.
I Googled macrame machine making, and everything that comes up is macrame kits. Like, just you get a
Well,
kit.
no, there's nobody sitting in the factory right now filming the process.
We will. Hey, listen.
Ugh.
We'll get to the
find
bottom of
answer.
that. We'll get to the
yeah,
bottom of
because
that.
I think that's really interesting.
But
and
answer the question, John. Is put yourself out of business.
well, a couple things. I would say, my main job is at a call center. So I would say, automated phone tree systems are becoming more and more advanced every day. And there even are services, we're partially using a service where they come in and they take the easy portion, like the easy phone calls,
Yep.
and they take like 500 calls a month. And like that, them coming in was like kind of a little scary for us. We were like,
Wow.
wow, we're getting outsourced. But they made, my department's, who knows? But
Sure.
my management has made it very clear that like
Nobody's losing their job.
job.
Yeah.
Over a
And I
computer.
believe it because Sharp is a really good company. But
Yeah.
Sure.
so I would say this animated phone
And I think just the
system
old people
Yeah.
dying, right? I mean,
Yeah, it's true.
because who do you talk to most of the day?
Well, you would be surprised.
It's got to be old people.
It's not necessarily about the patient side. While there is a patient side, of course, always, it's really about clinical applications and working with doctors and nurses, and that's never going to go away.
Yeah.
I think I just mean in terms of a call center.
Oh.
Like,
Who you talk to?
well, how often than not are you just like, oh, I'll just go on the website, find my answer there.
Oh.
Order.
they-
I'm going to order this thing. Call centers in general is what I'm getting.
Well, they
at.
updated that thing for Sharp. There's now like an online portfolio where now you can message your doctor. Like
Yeah.
I literally messaged and I was like, "Hey, I have this problem, blah blah blah," and then I got a message back like, "All right,
Yeah,
you
I
got
have
an appointment for
explosive
this
diarrhea.
day."
Do you have anything
And that's the goal. But when you think about Sharp has 33% of all of San Diego
Sure.
as
Yeah.
patients, which is the highest number in any healthcare
We love
organization in San Diego.
Sharp.
No big deal. And so that's 500,000. It's roughly 500,000 patients, and then we have 18, 19, almost 20,000 employees. So
Crazy.
like, and my department is like 30 people, and
Sure.
we take every call for for both sides of that. And so I think if phone free IT got to a certain point, I could fully see it not us becoming not needed.
Yeah.
And then as far as my side business, I like DJing. I would say I kind of feel it coming, and I know people don't believe me.
The Spotify playlist
Spotify.
is killing the DJ.
I think so. Because
Spotify
I think
killed the DJ.
well, think about
star.
when you like even now, like back in the day, if you had a big party, you'd hire a DJ. Well, now you don't because the only way that I see it not happening is in weddings, because weddings is like you need a person like doing all the little
Yeah.
things,
Well, and there's also like performative DJing.
Yes,
too.
yes, and that will
At
never go
EDM
away. But I think
concerts.
that is where it's hurting your business,
Yeah.
hurting DJ business. And like I said, I do DJing as a side gig, and
Sure.
I don't like love it. I do enjoy it, but that I see Spotify
Yeah.
doing that every day.
I do think it is a lot of work because on Spotify you can change the settings, so like the last 10 seconds of this song like
Fade
melts
into the next
fades into
one.
the next.
Yeah.
But the only thing hard about that is curating the songs in a certain order that they
Yes.
mix well.
Yes, yes.
Which
yes.
I
And
that's
really
why
what
I think
a DJ's
it won't.
job is.
Yeah,
now,
that's why I think I don't think it'll go out of
I
business.
tell every one of the brides I work with or people that I work with, I'm like, hey, listen, I use Spotify. Like
Yeah.
I'm not a crazy club DJ. If you're looking for that, there are plenty of them, and you should go find them. But like, if you want somebody who can keep the party going and play the songs in an order that makes sense, that's really what I'm doing.
It's going to be an algorithm that analyzes. Spotify is going to say, yeah, we have now dynamic playlist making.
Yeah, like DJ, like Spotify DJ.
Spotify DJ, where it's gonna
Keep the party going all
like
night
you
long,
put
yeah.
1,000 songs into your
And we'll
playlist, and
put it
it'll
together
analyze all
for
those
ya.
songs and go, okay, the party's gonna start kind of low, and then it's gonna get higher, and then like, oh, you like a lot of EDM, so that's gonna be like the climax of the party, and then taper off at the end.
Huh.
It's gonna be an algorithm, and it's gonna ruin you.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, no, I fully believe it. Like I said,
Just saying.
But that's the difference. Is like I say DJing because it's kind of the bulk of my
Yeah.
business. But
is, sure
I
is.
love
What's gonna
doing,
kill podcasting? You think?
I think oversaturation is what's going to kill podcasting.
Yeah.
I think like just the amount of people that are doing it. I mean, even now there's so many people doing it that it's like becoming less special.
I think that'll fade out though, because a lot of people started doing it as a hobby. Where now like we're on our 39th episode.
Yeah,
I think
podcasting is consistency.
Well, we're gonna have to find our niche at some point.
Yeah.
You know, I think like that is going to be the key to longevity.
Yeah.
Because people love like niche stuff. I think I really like the questions we ask and like, you know, the not expert side of it all.
Yeah.
I think if we lean into that, like, you know, because you're right. Anybody can start a podcast and be like, here's the wacky times
really
of Ryan's life.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, how long is that interesting for people other than like my circle, you know?
Well, that's what's nice about this podcast compared to any of the other ones I've been a part of is, you know, that it's not like the other ones are interview based. So I'm always interviewing somebody. So it's like you run out of people.
Sure.
Or you go into like parts where you're like, I don't even know who to ask anymore. But this is like, it's more pop culture, so we're talking about what's in the news, and I think it's more of like staple moments of like this is what that time period when we were talking about.
I've been really getting into like comedians interviewing other comedians. Really into Conan O'Brien's podcast because he just has like, you know, people like he would interview them on his show, but just come on and talk for an hour. I got into like Mike Birbiglia, if you know that guy.
You showed me a little bit of it the other night.
Great podcast. Pete
I like
Holmes,
that podcast.
another great.
What's gonna put you out of business before we move on?
In regards to my main gig, a worship leader, I think home church. Because this is
church.
So home church is this thing where people are. It's kind of like a small group or like a Bible study where people are going, oh yeah, this is church for us. We're gonna meet every Sunday, you know, a Sunday day or Sunday night at our house, and we're gonna do like a Bible study. They're calling it home church.
Huh.
And that's put me straight out of business. Not not the big like meet on a Sunday, everybody worship together. Everybody.
What if they need a worship leader at home church?
Oh sure, but that dude's not getting paid.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, interesting.
That's true.
I mean, I see what
Just
you're
a
saying.
fleeting thought. I don't know if that's like as big sweeping as it possibly could be, but you know, I can't say that it doesn't wouldn't affect attendance at a normal Sunday morning church.
Yeah, there's something about Sunday morning church though. You know, like I don't think it's going anywhere.
But
no.
I agree with you as an
in the private Christian sector, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Relatively speaking, as far as my other stuff, what else do I do?
Music? I don't know. Music.
Yeah.
Music. The band's already getting squished. So, well, you know, it's so hard to. It's like vinyl at some point. It's like you got to find, like I said, like the niche is what keeps people returning to like now I'm hearing like, oh, John Mayer just released his album on cassette. It's like, what? That's crazy.
What?
Like. But it's so niche. People are into that now. Like, oh yeah, like it's old school.
Know who else did that?
Who else did that?
Before John Mayer did?
Shawn Mendes or Taylor Swift or something.
Taylor Swift.
Did she release an album on cassette?
Yeah. Well, it was like in her like, oh, go to all the merch stuff. Like it was all cassette.
My point is like it's not like the viable option, but it's the
cool
interesting.
Option.
It's cool, yeah.
Cool option.
I like cassette. I think that's kind of cool.
I do too.
That's right. I have a cassette player. It's a good time. Makes you
Before-
really connect.
We have to do our Adobe
Before
thing.
we do
right?
sound.
TikToks,
Okay.
I want to end with something that was kind of like the Enneagram that Olivia sent us to all do this week. On Adobe, they now have a personality test, which I'm guessing all the RAs had to do at Biola. So that's why she sent it to us.
Got it.
So we had to go and just take a quiz that was like, what kind of creator are you? So
I think it's a little goofy, arbitrary,
It's
but
a little
it's
Enneagrammy
interesting to talk
for
about.
me.
Do you guys
so
have
let me
it?
show.
I screenshotted mine.
Yeah, I screenshotted mine too.
Do you want to show off at once?
Let me see. I'm gonna pull up.
We should go. Well,
I'm very curious to see what John got.
Okay,
in theory, we should be similar because we're pretty similar.
That's what I'm saying, but I wonder how you answered.
these are all of the
You don't
little
think I answered it truthfully?
things.
I don't know if I answered it completely truthfully.
Wow.
Sometimes I have a problem with personality tests where I'll answer the way
How
I
you wanna
want
be?
to be.
I'll go
that
halfway.
make sense?
Yes, I'll do the same thing, but then halfway through, I'll be like, "Nah, that's me. That's me."
Wow,
that's me."
that is so funny.
Okay, so on here,
Do you ever
all
do
the
that, John, or are you
types.
like a realist about yourself?
I kind of fight myself on it.
So I
I'll
want
show
you
you
guys
which
to
one
think.
I didn't
I
know what-
lost mine.
I want you to think of what Enneagram, like what your Enneagram
Tell me
was
the
saying
titles
too.
of all of these.
So we have the artist right here, which is little great man. The thinker, who's a little rock.
Oh, you clicked on it.
Oh my gosh, you clicked on it.
Wow, he's a little scary.
He's terrifying.
The adventurer, the maker, the visionary, the innovator, the
Okay.
dreamer, and the producer. So we took this quiz, and then it took you to this page.
We'll put the link in the
Kara's
bio.
is
You
the
should
thinker.
try it out.
Yes, mine is the thinker.
You got the thinker.
I got the thinker. So intellectual curiosity, ability to find and create meaning, bridging theory, ideal collaborator, the adventurer, driven by intellectual curiosity, the thinker makes quest for knowledge, sense of wonder and depth of perception, seek out the company of adventure types to have the perfect counterbalance.
Okay.
Which when I got that, I was like, that's kind of my Enneagram.
The thinker
Yeah, because
is the 9. Yeah, I'm with you.
yeah. So that was me. Was the thinker.
Okay.
What'd you get, John?
Oh, you want to go next?
Yeah, go ahead.
Mine was the visionary, bottom right.
Oh.
Interesting.
Visionary.
I don't know why. I didn't.
Imagining the impossible.
Yep, that's you.
Yeah. Big ideas, ability to see potential and possibility everywhere. Visions
Ideal
to feel
collaborator, the
consistent
thinker.
daily.
We're our ideal collaborators. Oh my god!
Wow.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
Interesting.
Very nice. Your life is limited only by the boundaries of your own beliefs.
Whoa,
Yeah, that's pretty on
True.
point. Ryan, what did you get?
the producer.
One guess?
I'm going to say that you got
I would say
either the
you-
artist or the adventurer.
I think you got the producer, or what's that one in the purple?
This one is the dreamer.
Or the dreamer.
Dreamer.
One of those two.
I got the artist.
Called it.
The
You a little great
artist.
man.
As an artist, you need to create in order to feel truly alive, full of ideas and visions. You're driven by the desire to express yourself and transform the world around you.
Wow.
My ideal collaborator is the producer. So I'm gonna find one of those someday.
I guess you do a little great
But
man.
it's so funny because all of I don't know how you felt about the questions, but I felt like they were all pretty like arbitrary. Like
Yeah,
I did too. They weren't deep at all.
Yeah.
But it was, I mean, it's just the combination of what you answered.
I suppose so. But
Like,
and,
I'm trying to think of what one of
classifying
the
that,
questions
like,
was. What was one of the questions?
It was all like, do you work better on your own or with a group? Do you
Like,
know?
when
Yeah.
you're traveling, do you need a destination or
Yes.
direction?
Oh, yeah, that was the first
Yeah.
I'm
one.
like, that's kind of rough.
Yeah.
I said destination. I mean, because I felt like I kind of.
Interesting.
I said destination too.
I said
Yeah.
direction.
Oh,
Wow.
really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! You know what? I think I remember like actively being like, I think Ryan was saying.
Oh, this one. My brain spends more time in the
I'm-
zone or zoning out.
Zoning out.
Zoning out.
Zoning out for sure.
In the zone.
In the zone.
Whoa.
Whoa. So yeah, it was all these kind of questions.
Kind of a
But,
little interesting.
Pretty cool. Okay, so you know what time it is.
Is it time?
It's time for TikToks.
Ryan and John react.
Let's see if I can do it, people.
Go ahead, Cara. Go full screen it,
All right.
If it doesn't work this week, I quit.
please. Please quit.
All right.
Oh yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Number one.
Reacts.
No! No!
What is going on?
No!
Good to see you, John.
No!
Glad you could be a part of the show.
Hold on.
As long as you
It's
did.
external headphones, right?
The very same.
I'm not wrong about that. About that.
I'm not wrong about that.
I don't have a problem about that.
Yeah.
I'm excited for these ones. Ryan, you've already seen a lot of them.
Just
But-
go ahead and go to the sound bar. I guess what we're gonna have to do.
Entertainment room.
Yeah,
That's the one.
Yep.
Dun, dun, dun.
Turn it up a little bit because it's gonna be kind of soft. I think.
All right, here we go. Number one.
Upsetting. That's really upsetting. I'll have to look into that. I'm sorry.
Here we go. Oh, wait. I need to start it over
Come on, Cara.
and turn it up just a little bit. We love TikToks.
This may be the last Ryan and John react.
We'll get
I'm gonna
it.
fix it.
We'll
I'm
get
gonna
it.
fix it. I don't know why that stopped
Right.
working. That's so weird. It was working when, you know.
All right, here we go.
Go ahead, Cara.
3, 2, 1.
First large. It's got me. Wow, That's literally me.
Yeah, that's both of you.
Well,
Show your cups right now.
we're in the middle of drinking.
I'm
them,
almost
for the
done with
record.
mine.
You guys
so
never.
Cheers to that.
I have to say, you never finish it every time.
I finished mine.
Maybe Ryan,
every
you
single
maybe do.
time.
John, you never
Finish it, John.
As a side note,
Go on,
you want to
pal.
know why I don't finish it?
Why?
Because I'm the type that like drinks to enjoy it. So
Yeah.
when I get a Starbucks, it's during work. I finish it, but it takes me like my whole shift to finish it because I'm like sipping on it. Maybe I'll get more ice. You know,
Boy,
it's
that
like,
was a great venti iced coffee.
All right, here's the next one. John,
take that, Cara.
good job.
Got her.
You
All right, here we
try it
go.
out.
Why was the sound so low on that one?
Yeah.
It's the best sound.
Can't win them all, Cara.
I'm just gonna play that one again because it's so funny.
And John react to Cara's TikToks.
I was in the 3rd grade. They treated me like a criminal because I killed somebody.
What's that line from?
No idea.
We were trying to figure
Another
that
vine.
out.
It's a
Didn't look at
vine, I
it.
think.
All right, here's the next one.
John was not impressed by that one.
Oh, it was good. It was really funny.
It's so
John
cute.
doesn't react.
All right, here we go. Look at how
puppy.
cute the puppy is.
So cute.
So sweet.
Oh.
I love the little pups.
Wow. Oh no.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Oh yes.
Oh.
This gives me so much anxiety.
Ugh. Ugh.
Ugh.
Ugh.
Oh.
What's
There
the
they
with
go.
the one hand? What's with the
I
one
don't
hand?
know.
Recruitment
I don't
work
know.
week 2015, new house. This is where it is at.
Ugh.
Literally, that's a whole other episode. I do not understand. And maybe we get somebody
That's
who was
something
in
I
a
know nothing
sorority,
about.
you know, that could maybe come and I have a couple friends that were in sororities, and maybe they can come and like give us some perspective as to what's the point, you know?
So
Party
I
on.
showed that because this week recruitment is starting, and I guess when you go to each house, it's just
It's
every
that.
house has that, and you see all the girls
that
doing. Whew.
makes me want to die a little bit.
On TikTok, it's
Wow.
Rush Bama.
Yeah, honestly,
Because
that's
all
a
the big
lot.
sororities are in Alabama.
That's a big thing in the Midwest, actually. being a
Crazy.
sorority. Well, it's a big thing here too.
Yeah,
I don't get it.
me either.
I didn't
No,
go to.
I don't.
I mean, I didn't go to a conventional
Conventional.
college either. So
Oh, that was weird.
neither did you. Neither did Cara. I mean,
So we're
I
kind
did
of
for
all
a
of
year.
that.
tell you what. Yeah,
Well,
you
we should
rushed.
get-
I
somebody
remember
in here.
recruitment week though, and it was psycho because walking to where I parked my car
Yeah.
was they would have it was kind of like a fair
Yeah.
where they set up all the booths of like sign up if you want to rush.
Ugh.
Yeah. I don't quite get it.
It makes
but
me kind of annoyed.
Yeah, but that's another episode.
It's one of those things. Like, yeah.
We don't. I know I don't
You know what?
get it.
We'll save it. We'll save it. Yeah. It. There must be something there because
get somebody in the
millions of
studio.
people
Do it.
You know, what I'm
across the
saying?
country.
Yep.
We'll get somebody in the studio.
We'll get
We'll
somebody
figure
in
this
the
out.
studio. A
Yep.
frat head. Is
A
that what they
frat-
call them?
I want a
Oh.
frat. I want a frat.
Let's
boy
get
and I want
Connor
a
Philly in
sorority
here.
girl.
Connor and Kennedy.
That's kind of interesting.
Let's
Their-
get Connor and
Their
Kennedy in
wedding's
here.
coming
gonna
up,
circle
so
back to
maybe
It'll be by the time you listen to this podcast, it'll be the next day.
True.
Whatever.
Incredible.
Who knows?
incredible, man. Maybe
Wow.
this has been a great week to have them on. You know,
Yep.
pre-wedding, post-wedding.
Tell you
little-
what,
little pre and post.
this was a
situation.
good podcast.
We'll save that for you guys because you guys
Yeah.
have and you guys are on the show. So.
And we.
Oh, in
I'm,
between when
I'm
we-
actually going to be rushing this week. Believe it or
Stop.
not.
In
You're
between
pointing again.
when we get married and
Yeah.
when we leave for our honeymoon, we have a Tuesday.
Whoa.
Thanksgiving week.
Yeah.
We'll zoom in for that one too.
No. Oh, when we're gone, yes.
For when we're gone.
Oh, you guys are gonna be
We're gonna have to.
That's right.
We're gonna have to.
We'll zoom in. It's fine.
Or we'll just pre-record. You know what? This is a conversation for
anyways.
Text Roadhouse. What do you think?
Oh,
I also
no.
feel like we had a
No.
conversation about the purpose of this podcast earlier, and I was like, this is kind of like a team meeting, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty much was.
always.
Hey,
Yeah.
if you're watching, you're part of the team.
It just felt
you know?
right.
You're
You
part
know?
of the team.
Well, if you're watching, you know.
Hey,
You're
drop
in
a comment with what we should do. What's the next thing? You know,
We've been doing this podcast almost a year.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, how
I mean,
exciting!
and at this point, like the listeners, they know, right? They know what's
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
on here. They know
Fully.
they're a part of the show just as much as we are.
And they know
Oh,
they
what a
know
journey
our
these last
exit
39
phrase
weeks have been,
as
huh?
well.
Oh,
Oh, Cara's trying to wrap the show.
She is.
That's
I
the light.
am.
That's the light. Form your own opinions. We'll see you next week on
What the Podcast?